Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. You know, a question that I get from a lot of you, and it's a really common question, and typically when I see the same question popping up over and over and over, I think, hey, maybe it's a good time to do a video on that. And the question I'm talking about today is this one, which is, what are the worthwhile organizations to donate to that are actually out there fighting for your Second Amendment rights? You know, there's a lot of organizations out there that claim to be out there fighting for your rights, but there is a small handful of them that are actually jumping down into the trenches, getting their knuckles bloody, and actually doing the work for you and the lawful and responsible gun owners nationwide. So that's why we're going to spend a few minutes today and have a very important discussion about those that fight and those that fight for you. Okay, before we get going down the road we are going down, proud to announce that this video is being brought to you by Legal Heat. That's right, the nation's largest educator of concealed carry classes. Legal Heat has now taught over 200,000 people nationwide since they started their business in 2005. Now listen, for my Washington viewers, you can find classes at any one of these locations right here. If you're watching from somewhere outside the state of Washington, congratulations. Number one, you are living far freer than we are. But number two, you also can find a class close to your own backyard by visiting them at mylegalheat.com. That's mylegalheat.com. Now listen, for any of you, no matter where you are, if you find a class, you like it, and you want to sign up, use the promo code Washington Gun Law. That's Washington Gun Law, all one word, and you will receive 10% off that class. So for more information, visit them at mylegalheat.com. Okay, so I'll tell you what kind of brought about the whole idea for this discussion is, number one, obviously, I get inundated with questions by my viewers out there about who do I support, who do I routinely donate to, and who do I think we can really get some value for our donations. I also am doing this in the wake of this week's election because we need to kind of do a little analysis about what happened there, because we were told that there was going to be this big, massive red tsunami coming through. And as it turns out, it only turned out to be a little bit of a red trickle. Now, we can get all critical about polling and what's going on in politics in the United States. But one of the things as an outsider looking in is that it is one thing to tell all Americans how terrible the current administration is doing. And they certainly are doing a terrible job. But when you do that, you also need to provide the American people with an alternative, a solution, a resolution to those problems. And I think where the GOP came up short in this past midterm election is they did an excellent job of identifying all of the deficiencies in the Biden administration, because it's just about, well, everything in the Biden administration. But what they failed to do was actually offer the American people some alternatives, some alternative plans and ideas for how we get ourselves out of some of these messes that we are in. Well, using that same analogy, we know that there are many, many so-called Second Amendment organizations out there that are incredibly loud, incredibly boisterous, constantly pounding on the podium, constantly looking for attention, and only a handful of those organizations, however, are in the trenches fighting every single day to protect your Second Amendment rights. And when you see the organizations that I'm going to talk about today, you'll realize that most of them are not the really loud, boisterous ones. They're not the ones that are all bold and brash about this. No, they actually operate much more like snipers. They're very quiet. They're very intellectual in their approach. And they have produced some very, very effective pieces of litigation. Now, I'm going to mention 4 organizations today, and I want you to know a couple things. Number one, I am not going to do these organizations in any particular order. I think highly of all 4 of them. Number two, if I failed to mention an organization, it does not necessarily mean that I don't hold them in high regards. I might be not familiar with them, might be familiar with them and unaware that they've done some work. There is one particular organization that you will not find on this list. I will not name them, but they start with an N and they end with an A. And I do not believe that we are getting bang for our buck out of that. And I'll circle back on that organization a little bit. Okay, so what do I look for when I'm looking for a Second Amendment organization that's actually out there doing the right thing and fighting for us? Well, it's real simple. I take a look at the advance sheets. I take a look at all the case law. I take a look at all the current litigation that's going around in this country, fighting like holy hell to protect your Second Amendment rights. And I take a look at who's the plaintiffs on this? Who are the appellant counsels? Who's throwing their hats into a ring? And I have found 3 organizations on a national level and 1 more local organization here in the state of Washington that I want to make all of you aware of. Okay, the first organization, one that you're all very familiar with, of course, is the Gun Owners of America. Now, the Gun Owners of America, if you take a look at their litigation list, is a mile long. And this organization has been fighting like crazy in the trenches, in the trial courts, in the appellate courts, at the Supreme Courts. This organization, time and time again, goes to bat for the lawful and responsible gun owner nationwide. Antoniuk v. Hockel is a case right now that's dealing with New York's Concealed Carry Improvement Act. An absolute insult to the Second Amendment. Who's leading the charge on that? Oh, the Gun Owners of America. Hey, District of Columbia v. Heller, one of the most important Second Amendment cases in the history of this country. Who was one of the lead plaintiff counsels on that? Oh, it was the Gun Owners of America. McDonald v. Chicago, which was a huge case that dealt with Illinois and Chicago's crazy concealed carry permit laws. Who was the lead counsel on that? Gun Owners of America. Wren versus the United States. Johnson versus the United States, which dealt with a sentencing enhancement for a person who was possessing a firearm at the time they committed a crime. Each and every one of those times, the Gun Owners of America have been in the trenches fighting like crazy. Is that an organization that you're going to get a lot of mileage for your donations? It most certainly is. We'll put a link for them down below. But kudos to the Gun Owners of America because they are truly warriors for all of our rights. Okay, another organization, and this organization may be as litigious as anybody in the country, and that is the Firearms Policy Coalition. Listen, the Firearms Policy Coalition, I know they got a couple channels here out in the YouTuberverse. These guys are absolute warriors, and they like to do it in a volume practice. Granada v. Healy is a case right now that's dealing with Massachusetts' ban on handguns. Who's the lead counsel on that? Oh, it's the Firearms Policy Coalition. They got 4 current pending suits in New York State alone. They got 4 challenges currently in the state of New Jersey dealing with AR bans, dealing with the concealed carry laws, dealing with this crazy purchase permit that they have, and then, of course, dealing with the concealed carry ban. So 4 suits in New York, 4 suits in New Jersey. Bianchi v. Frosch, probably the seminal case that's going to decide whether or not AR bans are actually constitutionally permissible. They're not. But Bianchi v. Frosch out of Maryland, the 4th District, who's the lead counsel on that? Yeah, that's right. It's FPC. Vanderstock v. Garland. Okay, this is the case out of the Northern District of Texas. We did this video on it right here. This is a significant challenge to ATF's grotesque overreach into the world of unfinished frames and receivers. Who's leading the charge on that? Oh, it's FPC. And there's 11 separate suits. FPC has 11 separate suits right now active in California. And for my Washington viewers, hey, who's one of the lead counsels in Sullivan v. Ferguson, a challenge to Washington's magazine ban? That's right, the Firearms Policy Coalition. These guys are also absolute warriors. They're running a volume practice. They're suing the pants off the United States and states governments everywhere. We will put a link for all of them down below if you want to help the cause. Okay, the third organization is the Second Amendment Foundation. Alan Gottlieb, right here in Bellevue, Washington, literally just a few miles down from my office right here. Now, a local organization, however, they operate on a national level, and the Second Amendment Foundation has been also absolute warriors for your Second Amendment rights. Sullivan v. Ferguson, the case that challenged Washington's magazine ban. Who's thrown their hat in the ring? Of course, the Second Amendment Foundation. Miller v. Bonta, the challenge to California's AR ban. Who's the lead litigant on that? Oh, that's right. It's the Second Amendment Foundation. Listen, you can go to their litigation page, and I'll put a link for that down below. But understand this, that since the year 2020 alone, so this is in less than 2 calendar years, the Second Amendment Foundation has filed lawsuits or amicus briefs in 45 separate cases nationwide. That's 45 cases in less than 2 years. So yeah, the Second Amendment Foundation is out there fighting like holy hell for you. We will put a link for them down below. You can show them some love that way. And the final organization, much smaller organization, but one that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I've only become familiar with them in the last few months. Another local organization here in Washington State. It's the Silent Majority Foundation. Okay, Pete Serrano and all of his brilliant lawyers over there. Brumback v. Ferguson, the case that challenged Washington's magazine ban filed in the Eastern District of Washington. Who's leading the charge on that? Oh, that's right. It's the Silent Majority Foundation. For those of us who live in the People's Republic of Washington and we know what we went through with the pandemic and all of the crazy gubernatorial orders and shutdowns and mandates and all that, who was fighting Emperor Inslee every step of the way during the pandemic? Oh, that's right, the Silent Majority Foundation. This is an organization comprised of attorneys volunteering their time that are out there jumping into the trenches, getting bloodied, getting dirty, and fighting for your constitutional rights. We will put a link for them down below. Please show them some love. So that is a short list of the 4 organizations that I hold very near and dear to me. Now listen, I did mention that just because I didn't mention any other organization or agency does not mean that they're not worthwhile. And you may be familiar with an organization that is really out there fighting the good fight and actually advancing the cause of our constitutional rights. If you do, please list them below down in the description box. If you got a link so that we can learn more about them or donate to that cause, put that in the description box below. You will, however, notice that there is one very large organization who holds themselves out as being the largest organization on the planet as it relates to lawful and responsible firearms. I'm not going to name them, but they do start with an N and end with an A. What I would say to that organization is you are very much like many of the politicians in the last couple months who have told the American people how screwed up the current leadership is. I think they can all figure that out for yourself. But you rarely, if ever, offer a solution. I'm not sure where all the money goes in that organization, but based upon the number of mailers that I receive each week, I can assure you one thing: they are keeping multiple paper and envelope companies in business, as well as probably providing a large chunk of business for the United States postal system. To that organization, I would say that, I think our money probably could be spent elsewhere, like actually advancing the cause of our constitutional rights. Listen, you may have more questions or comments about this. I realize that this could be a touchy subject, and some of you may not like what I have to say, but this is based upon my experiences in working with these organizations and taking a look at the body of work that's been done. In the meantime, if you have any questions about this, remember, you can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or of course you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now let's everyone remember, part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.